You know that feeling when you're walking into a really crucial strategy meeting and someone just hands you a 50-page spreadsheet?
Oh, it's terrifying.
Right. It's just this massive wall of numbers, like endless rows and columns, and you're expected to look at it and somehow just see the future of the company.
Yeah, it feels less like reading and more like, I don't know, trying to decipher a completely foreign language and without a dictionary, too.
Exactly. And so, welcome to you, the listener, to another custom-tailored deep dive. Today's deep dive is basically the ultimate cheat code for surviving the information age.
It really is. Because, I mean, you're looking at a static snapshot with those spreadsheets, but you're expected to extract this dynamic predictive narrative from it.
Right.
And if you don't know how that snapshot was actually taken in the first place, you are entirely flying blind.
Which is why, as someone who loves learning but absolutely hates information overload, understanding how data is structured is basically a superpower. It takes that overwhelming mountain of numbers and turns it into a clear, readable story.
A story you can actually base business decisions on.
Exactly. So our mission today is all about the hidden journey of data, from tracking it down, capturing it without corrupting it, to finally taming it. And before we can even build that spreadsheet, we have to source the raw material.
Right, the raw material.
And that usually falls into two buckets, right? Primary data and secondary data. Primary being the stuff you collect yourself for a specific problem, and secondary being data you derive from someone else's work.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that the difference between primary and secondary data is, well, it's really just a matter of degree.
How so?
It's entirely relative. So data that is primary in the hands of the original investigator, the person who collected it, becomes secondary the exact moment someone else picks it up to use it.
Okay, let's unpack this because, using secondary data sounds great in theory. It's efficient. Somebody else did all the heavy lifting for you.
Oh, for sure. You're looking at like massive published data sets from the UN or the World Health Organization, the IMF or the CSO.
Yeah, or even unpublished internal stuff, like a company's old payroll records or cash receipts. They're cheap, even if they are a bit hard to access.
True.
But relying on secondary data, it honestly feels a bit like wearing someone else's prescription glasses.
Oh, wow.
Like, it might help you see a little better than having nothing at all, but the focal point is optimized for their eyes, not yours. If you wear them too long, you're just going to get a massive headache.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it because the original researchers, they had entirely different motives, different parameters, and potentially totally different blind spots.
Right.
You can't just adopt their data set and assume it maps perfectly onto your corporate strategy. There are three absolute prerequisites you have to verify before putting on those glasses.
And the first one is suitability, right?
Exactly. Suitability. You have to ensure the data actually fits the exact scope of your inquiry.
So, if you're launching a premium high-margin product in urban centers,
Right. And you borrow this robust, massive data set that was originally designed to track, say, wholesale purchasing habits in rural areas.
then that data is entirely unsuitable.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how statistically perfect their collection method was. It will lead you to completely wrong conclusions about, urban pricing elasticity.
You're basically optimizing for a reality that just doesn't apply to your product.
Spot on. Now, the second hurdle is reliability. You really have to audit the original architect of the data.
Like checking their bias.
Yeah. Was the agency unbiased? Did they use a representative sample size? Did they actually have the proper funding to execute the study thoroughly? Or did they, cut corners?
Because if you can't confidently answer those questions, the data is just toxic to your project.
Totally toxic. And the third precaution is adequacy.
Right.
Because the data might be perfectly suitable and it might be totally reliable, but it might only cover a fraction of the geographic area you need. Or it might be 5 years out of date.
So if the data is out of date or gathered by a biased source, the prescription glasses are useless. We just have to take them off and go make our own.
We have to gather primary data.
Right. And when we do that, we're looking at the total population of whatever we're studying. Now, obviously, gathering information on every single item in a like a complete enumeration, a true census, that gives you undeniable accuracy.
Undeniable.
But I'm assuming in the fast-paced corporate world, doing a true census is rarely the answer.
Yeah, a complete enumeration is almost always a mathematical luxury. I mean, it requires massive amounts of capital and time.
Which nobody has.
Right. But beyond the logistical nightmare, a census is sometimes physically impossible.
Wait, impossible?
Think about manufacturing. Let's say you're managing a facility that produces industrial steel cables.
Okay.
And you need to test the tensile strength of the steel you're producing. The only way to definitively test that strength is to apply pressure and physically stretch the steel specimen until it just snaps.
Oh, wow. So if you demand a complete census, if you insist on testing every single foot of steel cable coming off the assembly line to guarantee its strength.
You destroy your entire inventory.
That's hilarious and terrible.
You're left with perfectly tested data and literally zero product to sell to your clients.
Right, right. So this is the ultimate proof of why sampling is just an unavoidable reality in business.
Exactly. We have to study a mathematically sound, representative part of the population and make inferences about the whole. We sacrifice a tiny bit of absolute certainty to preserve our time, our budget, and, our actual product.
So if we're sampling, we have to actually extract that data from our human customer base. And observation is one method, right? Just passively watching how customers navigate a store or use the software interface.
Sure, observation is a tool.
But observation hits a wall pretty quickly. You can't observe someone's past behavior, and you certainly can't observe their internal motivations or their income level just by watching them click a button.
Which is exactly why the questionnaire remains the absolute engine of primary data collection. Whether it's administered face-to-face for high-fidelity nuance or sent through the mail to capture a massive geographic spread, or even done via quick telephone bursts, you just have to ask people directly.
But designing that ask is an incredibly fragile psychological operation, isn't it?
Oh, incredibly fragile.
Yeah.
There are strict rules. You need a good covering letter with a real inducement or motivation to answer. Keep it to 15 to 40 questions. If it's over 25, you should really break it into parts.
And no math, right?
Oh, absolutely no math. If you ask a question that requires the respondent to do calculations, they will quit immediately.
Yeah, I would.
And if you ask deeply sensitive personal questions without establishing massive trust, they'll either lie or they'll just throw the survey in the trash.
No, I do want to push back on one specific rule regarding the flow and structure of the questionnaire.
Okay, let's hear it.
So a common guideline is this idea of logical arrangement. You start with introductory softballs, move into the vital, heavy-hitting questions crucial to your study, and then deliberately end with light questions to leave a happy impression.
Yes, that is the standard textbook approach.
Wait, if we're trying to get to the truth, why end with light questions? Shouldn't we, build up to the most important stuff at the end? Like a grand finale where we finally crack the code.
Well, this raises an important question about human cognitive load.
Okay.
You really have to consider the very real phenomenon of questionnaire fatigue.
Right. Taking a survey is exhausting.
It requires burning mental calories. If you build up to the heaviest, most complex, or most demanding questions at the very end of a 30-question survey, the respondent is already totally depleted.
Their attention span is just gone.
Exactly. If you hit them with the hardest part when they're desperately looking for the exit, you'll get what we call straight lining.
Straight lining.
Yeah, where they just click C all the way down the page to get it over with.
Right.
Or they'll simply abandon the survey entirely.
Ah, I see.
By placing the vital questions in the middle, you secure the crucial data while they're still mentally engaged. Tapering off with easy demographic or light questions lets them just sort of coast to the finish line, which preserves the integrity of your core data.
So what does this all mean for us after the fact? Because we've hunted down the right sample, we've carefully managed the respondent's cognitive load, and we've gathered, say, thousands of completed surveys.
Right.
We just feed them into the computer and run the analysis, right?
Oh, no. If you do that, you will destroy your project.
Really?
Raw responses are inherently chaotic. Before any analysis happens, you must go through the meticulous, honestly brutal process of editing the primary data.
Editing.
You're basically acting as a bouncer at the door of your data set.
Yeah.
You're checking every single response for completeness, consistency, accuracy, and homogeneity.
Well, completeness makes sense. If they left the most important pages blank, you toss it. But the consistency aspect is fascinating. You're basically looking for respondents who are contradicting themselves.
Exactly. So a respondent might check a box saying no to being married, but a few questions later, they answered 2 for the number of children they have.
Which is a perfectly plausible life scenario.
It is. But mathematically, depending on the parameters of a family-focused study, it's a flag that requires investigation. It could be a genuine mistake by the respondent or an error by the interviewer who is recording the data.
So how do you fix that?
Well, to combat this, a brilliantly designed questionnaire includes hidden cross-check questions.
Oh, sneaky.
For instance, if you ask someone for their income directly, human nature dictates they might exaggerate it to look successful or underreport it out of privacy concerns.
Right, totally.
So later in the survey, you ask, are you currently an income tax assessee?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If they claim a massive six-figure income early on but state they aren't paying any income tax later.
You have an accuracy issue. You've caught the contradiction.
Precise.
And if we don't catch that, our financial projections for whatever we're selling are built on a total fantasy.
A house of cards.
And that brings up homogeneity, right? Making sure everyone understood the question the exact same way. Like if you have a blank box that just says income, you are inviting disaster.
Absolute disaster.
Because one respondent writes down their monthly take-home pay and another writes down their annual gross salary.
And if you don't edit for homogeneity, if you just take those raw numbers and aggregate them, your data set is completely ruined.
You're adding monthly apples to annual oranges.
Yes. This is why editing is considered the most difficult, unsung hero of data science. If you allow these fundamental inaccuracies to slip through into your final presentation, the executive team is going to make entirely misleading business decisions based on a mirage.
Okay, so we've carefully sourced our sample, we've navigated the psychology of the questionnaire, we've hunted down the contradictions, and we've edited for homogeneity.
It's a lot of work.
It is. The data is incredibly clean now. But a stack of 10,000 perfectly clean surveys is still just a giant stack of paper on a desk. How do we actually translate that raw tally into a corporate strategy?
We have to sort the mail.
Sort the mail.
Yeah, think of a massive post office distribution center. You have a mountain of envelopes, and you have to start placing them into different compartments based on similarities and dissimilarities.
Okay.
This is the process of classification. And the way you choose to sort this mail fundamentally changes the narrative you extract from it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because deciding how to classify is just as important as the data itself.
Oh, without a doubt.
If we classify geographically, like sorting our sales data by region, the narrative might scream, we're failing in the Midwest market.
Right.
But if we take that exact same data and classify it chronologically, sorting it by time across a 6-year period, a totally different narrative emerges. We might realize, wait, we aren't failing in the Midwest. We just always experience a massive dip in the third quarter, regardless of the region.
That is the power of classification. It dictates the lens through which you view reality.
What are the other ways to sort?
Well, we also have qualitative classification. That's sorting by attributes you can't measure with a ruler.
Like what?
Like simple dichotomous groups, employed versus unemployed. Or manifold groups, like sorting education levels into primary, middle, and university.
Got it.
But the real heavy lifting in business happens in the fourth compartment. Quantitative classification.
Numbers.
Exactly. Sorting data according to characteristics that can be numerically measured, age, revenue, weight. This becomes the absolute foundation for frequency distributions.
Now, before we build those frequency distributions, which are basically those bar charts and graphs we're so used to seeing, we have to confront a massive technical hurdle.
Yes, we do.
We have to know whether our quantitative data is discrete or continuous. And this is not just some academic distinction, right? Treating continuous data as discrete can cause algorithms to literally break.
It is a vital high-stakes distinction. Discrete data moves in distinct, indivisible steps. It is limited to integer values.
So things you can physically count.
Exactly. The number of employees in a branch or the number of delivery trucks in a fleet. You can have 12 trucks or 13 trucks. You cannot have 12.5 trucks.
You cannot hire half a person.
Right. Continuous data, however, can take on any fractional value within a range. It's measured, not counted. Weight, distance, volume, time.
Okay, but why does this matter to an executive?
Well, imagine a multinational logistics company using an automated algorithm to optimize fuel loads.
Oh.
If the algorithm is poorly coded and treats fuel volume as a discrete variable.
Meaning it only calculates in whole gallons.
Exactly. It will truncate fractions.
Yeah.
So if a route requires 500.8 gallons, the system might round down and allocate exactly 500. Yeah. Over a fleet of 10,000 trucks, treating a continuous reality as a discrete integer creates a massive cascading shortfall in fuel, stranding drivers, and basically destroying supply chains.
That is a terrifying thought. You're literally shaving off reality because the mathematical container was built wrong.
It happens more often than you'd think.
So, assuming we accurately identify our data as discrete or continuous, we finally get to build the frequency distribution. We define our classes, our categories, and we go through the raw data, historically using tally marks and blocks of 5 to count how many observations fall into each class.
And that count is the frequency.
Right.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the way you define the boundaries of those classes is where many analysts accidentally corrupt their own reports.
How so?
There is a crucial mathematical nuance here. The exclusive method versus the inclusive method of defining class intervals.
Okay, walk me through that.
Let's say you're grouping client companies by their monthly software spend. You create a class of $20,000 to $25,000, and the next class is $25,000 to $30,000. That is the exclusive method.
But wait, if I have a client who spends exactly $25,000, where do I put them? They're sitting right on the boundary line.
That's the problem.
Do they go in the first bucket or the second bucket? Because if I put them in both, I'm double counting revenue, which is a fast track to an SEC investigation.
Precisely. This overlapping boundary is a trap. In the exclusive method, it is a strict, unbreakable rule that the upper limit is always excluded from that class.
Oh, I see.
So the client spending exactly $25,000 does not belong in the 20 to 25 class. They get bumped up into the 25 to 30 class.
Got it. And the inclusive method?
The alternative is the inclusive method, where you design the classes so the limits are inherently included and there is zero overlap. You would label the first class 20 to 24.999 thousand. The next class clearly starts at 25 to 29.999.
Yeah, that feels much safer. There's zero ambiguity about where that $25,000 client belongs.
Both methods will ultimately give you the correct frequencies if applied perfectly, but you must be mathematically precise when you set up your boundaries.
Because if an analyst mixes these methods up,
Or forgets to bump the boundary cases up in an exclusive model, they shift the entire frequency distribution.
wow.
That alters the median, which alters the profitability models, which then alters the CEO's strategic decision on pricing. One overlapping number cascades into a multi-million-dollar mistake.
It is incredible how much power resides in the invisible plumbing of these spreadsheets.
It really is.
So let's synthesize this entire journey for you, the listener. We started by looking at the origins of data, understanding that primary data is raw and customized, while secondary data is like borrowing someone else's prescription glasses. You have to rigorously inspect it for suitability, reliability, and adequacy before you trust it.
Definitely.
We explored the high-stakes reality of extracting primary data, why we use sampling instead of destroying our inventory with a census, and how to carefully design questionnaires that respect human psychology and cognitive fatigue, keeping the heaviest questions right in the middle. We pulled back the curtain on editing, showing how finding contradictions and enforcing homogeneity separates real data from a mirage. And finally, we learned how to sort all that clean data into compartments, identifying the dangerous difference between discrete and continuous variables, and ensuring our class boundaries never overlap.
It really is an incredible journey of translation. You're taking raw, chaotic human reality and meticulously translating it into a structured mathematical format that a business can actually comprehend and act upon.
And for you, the listener, the relevance of this is massive. The next time you're sitting in a meeting and someone slides a colorful chart or a dense 50-page spreadsheet across the table, you won't just see a wall of numbers anymore. You have the cheat codes now.
You know exactly where to look.
You know the exact questions to ask to expose the structural integrity of their presentation. You can say, hey, where did this secondary data come from? Have we vetted the agency for bias? Or, did we control for questionnaire fatigue in this customer survey? Or were respondents just clicking C to get it over with?
Yeah, or even, are these class intervals exclusive or inclusive? Because I see an overlap that might be double counting our churn rate.
You are now armed to spot bad data before it leads your team into bad decisions.
That is the immense power of understanding the mechanics beneath the surface.
Yeah.
But I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, something that builds on this entire evolutionary journey of data.
I'm intrigued.
We discussed earlier how observation methods have severe limitations and why the questionnaire has always been the gold standard for gathering primary data, despite its reliance on human interpretation and honesty.
Right.
But think about the invisible shift happening in our modern digital age. Right now, our smartphones, our smartwatches, and the interconnected devices in our homes and cars are constantly passively observing us.
They really are.
They're effortlessly collecting massive, unbroken streams of continuous quantitative data. Our biometric fluctuations, our precise geographic movements down to the inch, our scrolling hesitation on a web page. And they are gathering all of this without ever asking us to fill out a single 30-question survey. As technology increasingly bypasses human error, cognitive fatigue, and the need for self-reporting entirely, how will our very definition of prime entity data shift?
Wow.
Will the classic questionnaire, with its carefully crafted flow and psychological pacing, eventually become just an obsolete relic of a bygone era?
That is a staggering thought to leave off on. Are we moving into a paradigm where passive algorithmic observation finally completely overtakes the human questionnaire?
It's entirely possible.
Well, thank you to the listener for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the data around you. Look under the hood of those secondary sources before you put on their glasses. And the next time someone hands you a massive spreadsheet, remember, it is not a wall of numbers. It's just a chaotic post office waiting for you to sort the mail.